I mean, I didn't go to that class, but I didn't even go online.
Dude, they stopped like 20 minutes early because it was so hot. It was like 4:25. They're like, all right, class is done. It was terrible.
All right.
This is like hellfire right here. So it's a gaming laptop, and so it's got that GPU that just makes it go crazy hot. It was like one of those things where I got it freshman year because I'm like, I'm gonna be on campus. I'm gonna game on the laptop.
Project. All right.
It's not efficient. I'd rather just have like a portable.
Dinosaur, man.
Legit.
So huge. I gotta log in to Metasploit or do I just
No, you can just as long as it's on, you can leave it in the background. Speaking of, I forgot to turn mine on. I just booted it up. Okay. All right, that's working. That's good. All right, let's go. Okay, cool. Everyone have Kali Linux booted up with Metasploitable 2 on in the background? All right, cool. So today we're going to be doing an introduction to red teaming. The reason I feel like I want to do this at this point is red teaming, or really penetration testing is what we're going to be doing, is CTF, but going a little further. Because like with CTF, if you have a SQL injection, you do just as much as you need till you get the flag. But then with a penetration test, you do as much as you need, and then you go a little further and get a shell on the system, which I would say, arguably, if you can know how to get a shell through a SQL injection, you can arguably get the flag through that same SQL injection. Yeah, so we go further. And it is as much as you can, because what you need to do as a pen tester is prove that this is a big deal. And just getting a flag is not enough. You want to go as much as as far as you can, which really is getting a root shell, okay? And a root shell means that we have access to, let's go here, make directory WCSC, WCSC, okay. Having root shell means that we can do as much as we want on the machine. And a root shell, for the people that don't know, a root means, at least in Linux, is a general concept that just means that you are of the highest privilege, and that means you can do whatever you want. Whether it's malicious or not is up to you, but we're going to be malicious today. Okay. So hopefully everyone has their what's it called? Their VM running, Metasploitable and Kali Linux. So I'm going to kind of walk you through, yeah. 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 And Kali? Yeah, because we're going to be hacking Metasploitable 2 today. Is that an issue? Okay. Yeah, we're going to be hacking Metasploitable 2 today. So that's fine. So let's start by a Nmap scan. The first thing you want to do when you know that you're going to be attacking a box is to scan it. And the reason you do that is because you want to identify as many vulnerabilities as you can, okay? And in our case, this just happened to be extremely vulnerable, but we'll work towards it. By the way, does anyone still have the issue with the same IP on VirtualBox? Or did everyone get that fixed? Okay, I'm gonna hope that everyone has it fixed. If you don't have it fixed, let me know. I made that fix. Yeah. Okay, so so we want to nmap scan. We're gonna type sudo nmap, and you can see it's right there. And what this does, the -sn flag, who remembers? We did this earlier this year. Ping scan, yeah. So we're going to ping each box and see if we can get a response back. If we get a response back, that means the machine is up. And what is this IP? So for me, this is my subnet 192.168.133.1/24. What does /24 mean?
You're scanning the ports.
Not ports.
You're scanning the 24 IP addresses.
Yeah, and what is that? What is that? What are they?
Octet
What octet?
of the IP address.
Yeah, the last octet. But what is the range? 1 to 254.
So
Okay. On that subnet, yeah.
are you scanning Metasploitable or you're
Yeah. So right now, what I'm doing is I want to find what IP Metasploitable exists, because I know it's on the same network as my Kali Linux box, but I don't know where. Okay. Because there could be the way the subnet works. So let's look at the subnet. So if we type IP space A, you can see that the subnet should be defined somewhere here. Where is it? Right here. 192.168.133.255. Okay? So that means these are going to be unchanged right here. 192.168.133 are going to be unchanged. You see they're similar to mine. This is my IP right here. And then this is the subnet. But then the last part is 255, indicating that you can have 255 different variations of that initial first bit, okay? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to run this scan, which I canceled sudo nmap, which will ping every single one of these IPs. And then hopefully it only returns the ones that are up, okay? So when I run this, it's going to ask you for your password. Shouldn't take too long. We should get a response back, and you might see 1, 2, and 254 if you're on VMware. And then 129 is you. See that?
So I just want to double check before you get too far. The IP that we're using is the init IP, correct? That you just
So inet is your IP, okay? But the subnet is these first three, and then 255 options on this one. And the way we do the 255 is with the /24. This tests all 255, and it keeps the 192.168.133. Make sense?
the Metasploitable machine can be on 128.
So
Yeah, so yeah, for me it's gonna be 128. Does that make sense? Because this is me, this is my machine, this is some VMware like the router that they have, and same with these two. I have three different ones available, and then it should be something obvious. It wouldn't be 1 or 2 or 254. It'll be somewhere in the middle. So in my case, 128. Does everyone have their Metasploitable 2 IP? It's gonna be different than yours. Make sure when you're scanning for the IP, okay, maybe EJ, you might be missed. When you're scanning for the IP, make sure you're grabbing this first part and then doing .1/120
so
/20.
that port's going to be the same, right?
Yours, not mine. Like, don't use my IP. Yours is probably going to be different. Type IPA into your terminal.
Yeah, I get 192.168.194.131.
Okay. So yeah, you need to do 192.168. What? 128. Dot.
194. Yeah.
Oh, so 192.168.194.
192.168.194.131.
Okay. So after 194, you do .1/24. You want to start at 1, go all the way up to 255. Okay. So that's the idea here. Everyone following? So I have my IP address. Hopefully everyone else does. Vicky, you got it? Christopher? Oh, you still don't have it downloaded. Andrew? You good? Jack? Jonah? All right, everyone following? All right, okay, cool. All right, so let's do that now. So now that we have an IP address, I'm gonna do a full port. Actually, let's just do a regular scan of the IP. So mine is 168.133.128, and then you should use the one that you found. Did you find it? Yeah. Okay, cool. So at this point, this is just a regular scan. We don't have any options. Let's add some options so we can get a little bit more information. I'm gonna do -v, and what -v does is verbose, which means it's gonna show us more as it's scanning. It won't show us more once it's done. Once it's done, it's gonna show us exactly as much as it's gonna show us regardless. So if I press enter now, you see the difference is gonna be this stuff, the discovered port. If I remove the -v, page down, if I remove the -v, it won't do that. It'll just show me the output. See that? It doesn't have it. So we see a bunch of ports, okay? But these services that it says they are is just a guess. Why is it a guess? Or what's the guess based off of?
The most common usage for that port,
Yeah.
22 is always used for SSH.
Yep. So what John said, he's saying that the most common use of that port, so 21, for example, is not always, but the most common usage for that port is always FTP. And then for 22, it's SSH, 23, Telnet, etc., etc. And a couple you might notice are 80 for HTTP and 443 for HTTPS, okay? And what that matters to us as attackers is because we need to know, first of all, truly what that service is, and then what version of that service is running. Because if it is vulnerable to anything, we can exploit that and report that, okay? So let's figure out what it truly is. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add the -S capital C flag, and who knows what this flag does? Anybody? Simple script. So it's gonna go through the common script for that port that exists within the Nmap engine. Because Nmap doesn't only scan ports, it also has scripts that it runs in the background, or it has scripts that you could run in the background with it that do extra checks. Like for example, for FTP, it'll try logging in with anonymous credentials to see if you can access the file system without credentials. It'll do that for you. Why do we do this? So we don't have to do these tests ourselves. Why would I have to go and try logging in FTP and then try logging in with SSH and then try logging in with Telnet and then try logging in with, I mean, in this case, we have a lot of ports. Usually we don't have a server that has all these services on them. Usually a server would be a web server and only have web stuff on it. Maybe SSH, so you can go in there and fix what you need to fix and get out of there. And a web server is going to, or a web mail server will have a mail server exclusively. So you wouldn't have every single thing available at once, but because this is made for you to practice, assume that every time you're attacking a new service on a new server, okay? So SC, and then we can do SV, and what this one does is, do you guys want to do it? Anyone know? Version, yeah. So it'll actually grab the version. And I'll actually, before submitting that command, what it does is it'll connect. So in our case, I'm going to connect to port 22, okay? And I'm going to hit enter. And then it tells me what version of that OpenSSH it's using. So it says 4.7 P1. Yo, what's up? Do you have a laptop? Yeah? Okay. Can you run virtual machines on it? No? Yes? Okay, come. Here, I'll help you. Come sit over here somewhere with a computer. So, this is Nick, everybody. Here, I'll help you out. No, I just have to log in first. It's okay. VirtualBox is already installed, so just download Kali Linux. The ISO for VirtualBox. You know how to do that? Yeah. And then it might take a while. I just want to make sure. And then download this thing called Metasploitable too. If you need help, he's also on the board, so just ask him. He'll just help you, or just ask anybody. Everybody's cool. And then what we're doing is just learning how to hack. It's very, very basic. So you'll catch up. This is downloading the stuff. Will take a minute. Okay, you're in. All right, it's Linux, by the way, so you can. It's good Linux. All right. All right. So I'm back. All right. So what it does is this thing called banner grabbing. Okay. We grab the banner of the application. In this case, it's SSH 2.0 OpenSSH, and it's SSH, and then the server itself is OpenSSH, right? That's the tool that they're using to run an SSH, and then the version of that is 4.7 P1, okay? So that's what it does, but it does that for us on every single thing. So let's do that, because I don't want to do that myself. So we're going to add those flags. and it's lowercase s, uppercase v. And then the last thing I'm going to add is the dash v flag and hit enter, just so I can see it work. And then as we do that, it shouldn't take too long because we are scanning something on localhost, so, or not localhost, they're on the same machine, so it should be pretty fast overall. Yeah.
So what did you say the SC switch does?
Yeah, so the SC, within the Nmap scan itself, okay, it can just check the port, right? And then once it confirms that this port is FTP 100%, it'll try to do things against FTP. For example, login. So what it means is simple scripts. They have scripts that come with the Nmap engine that will run alongside to do other things. So I'll actually scroll up here to show you guys. If I go to the FTP here, you see earlier we didn't have all of this. The V flag, the SV flag would have only showed us this. So we see a version of VSFTPD, which is 2.3.4, okay? And VSFTPD is the application running FTP. And then we see this other thing. It says connected to this, logged in as FTP. So they logged in with the username FTP. So it tried a couple of credentials and was able to log in as the user FTP, except there was no session, I think it logged it out after a little bit. No, it was fine. Oh, yeah, there's a timeout actually after 300 seconds. Am I dumb? In seconds is 300. No, that's just the session timeout. So it was able to log in. So we should try logging in with that. Yeah, it just logged in to see if you could. And then it confirms at the bottom, anonymous FTP login is allowed. Did you have all these ports come up? Okay, let me see what you got. So you did the Nmap scan. You got both of them up, right? Now let's go up to the other one, the SN one. Here, let's do this. I'm gonna do -SN, so you can ping it.
Okay.
So you're not doing a full scan every time, you're just pinging it. So hit that. Wait. No. So if you hit IPA, 192.194, okay. So we gotta fix that. So now when you do that, it should be very quick. And now you see you have 254.132, which is you. And then 131 is you, so 132 is the Metasploitable.
So that's the one I'm using.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the one you want to be scanning right now.
I got you.
Makes sense? So you want to like double click that and you can copy it.
192.1. Thank you. I thought it was wrong.
All right. So let's go through the scan very briefly, because a lot of it probably makes no sense to you, and it's okay. It doesn't make sense to me either, and I'm OSCP certified, so we're gonna keep going. So let's go to after 21. I just want to look through it briefly to see things that I might know. Okay, and hint, I know this FTP server is very vulnerable. In fact, it's vulnerable to remote code execution as root. So you will go straight in as root. This is fun, we can do it. We'll do it in a second. But let's move on. We have SSH, and this is a very old version of SSH, because if you were at Austin's meeting, you might have noticed that our SSH version was like 8.7, and this is 4.7. So this is very old. Yeah, we'll get to that, yes, but we will be doing that. That's pretty much the entire basis of penetration testing, is knowing how to use Google. You will need to be Googling things all the time. In fact, one of the most common ways to Google things is, let's copy this VSFTPD 2.3.4, and let's Alt-Tab into Firefox. Were you able to get that?
Yeah.
You were able to do SCSV? Yes. And then let's just paste this here with exploit. And then you see the first thing comes up is VSFTP 2.3.4 backdoor command execution. Okay, and when we click on that, we get what seems to be a Python script ran in Python 3. This service, which is odd, is dated, or at least this exploit that is written is in 2021, even though the CVE is from 2011. And we see the CVE up here. And who knows what a CVE is? An exploit number. It's used to identify an exploit. It's made by who? MITRE? I don't know.
I don't think it was like a centralized.
It is centralized. Uh, who? Anyone know? I forgot. Oh, it is MITRE. Okay. It is MITRE.
I use
Nice.
MITRE every day at work.
He does the goat. Okay.
EJ's like, I know what it is.
So MITRE made CVEs, and what CVE means is that okay, this was in this year and this vulnerability, and they also give it a rating. So if we look at if we copy the CVE number, so let me copy this, and I look up CVE this, you'll get the NVD. That's what I was looking for, NVD, which is National Vulnerability Database. And you see that the severity level is 9.8 critical. The vulnerability has been modified since it was analyzed. VSFTP 2.3.4 downloaded between 2011, pretty much, this year, or not this year, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, contains a backdoor which opens a shell on port 6200 TCP. And this is interesting because the backdoor is very funny, and you guys are gonna like it. So I'm gonna alt tab here to confirm my theory. It's called the smiley face backdoor. Let me see. Let me see where it is. Confirm my theory. Yep. So let's do that. So let's exploit this VSFTPD vulnerability. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna netcat into it. Okay. Or actually, can we do FTP into it? Let's FTP into it. Let's FTP. So you're gonna type the command FTP, which literally uses FTP as a service and tries to connect to the FTP protocol on that machine with the IP address 192.168.133.128. Okay, and hit enter. And when it asks you for a username, we're gonna be friendly, and we're gonna type our name, for example, Gerb, and I'm gonna put a smiley face. And I'm gonna hit enter. And then for the password, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna put Gerb again, and I'm gonna hit enter. And then it's gonna say login failed. And then I'm gonna netcat on port 6200. Connection refused. That should be the theory behind this. What do I do different? Oh, I should have put a space, I think. Was I supposed to put a space? Let's try this again. Gerb, like that. And then it's gonna fail, and then you should be able to netcat. No? Okay, it's literally called, here, I'll look it up. VSFTPD smiley face one. Yeah, on remote host has been compiled with a backdoor. Attempting to log in with a username containing a smiley face triggers the backdoor, which results on a shell on port 6200. So we should be doing this correctly. But let's say I'm just being dumb and we're doing this incorrectly. What I'm gonna do is we're gonna download this Python script. Okay, this is the usual way you do it. I just kind of wanted to show you guys. It was compiled with a backdoor. If you were to send it a smiley face, it opens up a bind shell on 6200. So someone had exploited the process that was like while they were in development and added that backdoor in order to do this. So we're gonna hit the download button up here, and then we're gonna click save file, and okay.
Can you put the link to the website?
Oh yeah,
In Discord?
yeah. If you actually no, you guys gotta do this. Type VSFTPD 2.3.4 exploit in Google, and it should be the first link that comes up. In fact, you might not even need to type exploit, and it'll still be the first. VSFTPD. If you're lost as to where I got that from, scroll up in your Nmap scan to the FTP section, and it's right there in the version. And space exploit. Nick, you're good? Downloading? Okay. Let me know if you need help with anything. What's up?
Troy figured out what you did wrong.
Does it matter if it's that version?
Yes. The exploit is in that version's name.
I think it's the when typing in like the username, there's no space between the
The no space between the smiley face? Is that what, did it work for you? Okay. So let's try that real quick just to confirm it. So if I type grb with a smiley face, and then grb again, it should just not log us in. The application didn't break itself. Well, actually, the application did break itself, and then we exit, and I do netcat on this port. We connect. Type who am I? We are root. So yeah, just don't put a space. And it's called the smiley face vulnerability. It's pretty funny. This is interesting. Now that I'm thinking about smiley faces, I see a sad face. Yeah. Yeah, Grub is happy, Callie's not. So yeah, so root, but where, who am I, ID, host name, Metasploitable. We were able to access Metasploitable. We can confirm it with IPA, 133.128.
Once you gave the password, nothing happened, right?
Yeah, it's gonna die, so you wanna Control C and exit out, and then netcat onto that port. But then this is where like someone like Jay probably came in and decided to script the entire thing like this. So let's download this file real quick. And then it didn't ask me where it wants to save it, which is annoying. So we're gonna move this from downloads. We're gonna put it on, where am I gonna put it? Documents, WCSC. Okay. So here I'm gonna get out of that shell. I'm just gonna run the Python script, which I think actually needs me to input an IP. Is that in a argument? Yep. Okay. So if I do Python 3 and then the script name, which in this case is the ID, the exploit DB ID. And what I mean by that is up here, you see an EDB ID, exploit DB ID, and that's that.py. When I input that, it's going to say I need a host. So we'll do -h 192.168.133.128 for me. If I enter, or was I supposed to not do -h? Yeah, not -h, just the IP. And then success shall open. If I do who am I? It says root. That's pretty cool. It's a very major vulnerability, and it's been exploited an infinite amount of times. VSFTPD since then, I think, released version 3.0.3, which is the latest version. At least that's the version I see when I'm pen testing all the time, and it doesn't have any vulnerability, so I'm assuming that's the latest one because I don't see anything after that. But let's use FTP like how it's intended to be used, assuming there's no vulnerability. We're gonna FTP, we're gonna type anonymous for the username, and this is where the anonymous access comes in. We type anonymous for the username, and this is just a default thing that comes with FTP. You can designate a username and a password to log in, and it's usually anonymous. And I can do anonymous and nothing for the password, and you can see login successful. If I type ls, it says directory send OK, and there's literally nothing there. So what we can do is we can try a couple of things. Is everyone following? I might be moving a little too fast. Yeah, I'll slow down. Yeah, anonymous for the username, no spaces, nothing like that. And then you can put whatever you want for the password. It doesn't matter. And when you type ls, you should be able to just see nothing because it's empty. But what we're going to do is put stuff in there, at least try. Okay. Usually if there was something in there, you'll use the get command. And then the file name. I can't type. But if you want to put something in there, what do I have in here? I'm going to touch file. So now I have a file in here. And it'll base it off of the instance where you opened up the FTP session. So in my case, it's in documents WCSC. So that's why I put a file called file. And I'll literally put the command put and type the file. So file. And then you see could not create file. So we're not allowed to upload files onto the system. So if this wasn't version 2.3.4, this would be the extent of me trying to exploit this. If there's no files on there and I can't put files on there, the FTP server is secure enough. I don't have anything to do. But in this case, we have the vulnerability, which is 2.3.4, which we can abuse, okay? So let's move on. We got our shell, we had our fun, and we fully rooted a box. You guys rooted your first box. Was everyone able to get the root shell? Anyone not able to get the root shell back? It's okay, I don't judge. You got it? Okay, cool. So everyone rooted their first box, but let's do something that might take a little bit more steps, okay? So let's open up the nmap file. Oh, I never outputted it into a file, so I have to scroll up. So I'm going to scroll up back to my nmap scan and move forward. So with SSH, we can possibly brute force, okay? We can also check if SSH has any vulnerability, or at least that specific version of SSH. What I'm going to do specifically is access this website called exploit-db. And the reason I like getting my exploits from here and not from the dark internet web is because I know that these are verified and these won't kill my computer when I run them. And a lot of times, they have very specific instructions that are required for them to work. For example, it'll say this vulnerability will only work on Windows 10 Pro and not Windows 10 Home. Make sense? And it'll tell you that. When you grab an exploit from Google, from like GitHub with no information, literally just a proof of concept, it says POC CVE whatever .py and it has no explanation as what it does. You kind of have to do a lot of digging around yourself. And if it's anything binary related, good luck, because it's a lot of it is in hex, and you should definitely not run that on your computer. So I use it from exploit-db. It's pretty safe for the most part. No, it is safe. So let's type in our OpenSSH server, which is OpenSSH 4.7 P1. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and type that in, OpenSSH 4.7 P1, and we see nothing. Is it because I'm being too specific? Nope. 4, no. So it just doesn't have a vulnerability. You see that 4.3, I kind of just backspaced a little bit. 4.3 P1 has a denial of service attack, a DOS, so it'll kill the service. But nothing for 4.7 P1, so we can move on. We can just type OpenSSH, and now we see a little bit more stuff. And this says that anything before 6.6 on SFTP, if SFTP is enabled, has command execution. Same with a couple other ones. We're just going to ignore SSH. SSH's main way to exploit is through brute force. And if they have any way of lockout enabled, it's a waste of time. You're going to lock yourself out, get your IP banned from all the services on the machine. It's a waste of time. But we don't have lockout enabled here, so we're going to brute force SSH. So there's multiple ways to do this. My favorite way is to use a tool called Hydra. Okay. And Hydra is a tool that you can brute force pretty much anything you want. And let's look at the options that we have to brute force. If I do Hydra-H and I press enter, let's see the options. It should say it somewhere here. So see below for the supported services. Okay, right here. So we have Atom 6500, asterisk, Cisco enable, Cobalt, Strike, etc., FTP, HTTP, HTTPS, post, get, head requests, IMAP, IRC, but you'll also see SSH somewhere here, right there. So we want to brute force SSH, okay? And our hope is that they have root logon enabled, and you guys remember that from Austin's meeting. You shouldn't have root logon enabled, but I'm assuming from it having so many vulnerabilities, it likely has also misconfigurations. So let's assume that root logon is enabled, and I'm going to try to log in as root. So I'm going to specify the username. Let me clean this. I'm going to specify the username as root, and I do that by doing the -u flag, U for user. And that's lowercase u. Uppercase U means that you want to identify a user file. So I'll have a bunch of usernames inside that file appended something like this. So if I call it users, and I'll do root, Ethan, J, etc. So it'll do it like that, and it'll go through them one by one, okay? So we're going to do Hydra-U, spell that, -u root, and I'm going to do capital P this time, because I don't know the root password. I want to give it a password list, okay? And on Kali Linux, you probably have this word list, /user share, word lists, raw q. And then in my case, because I've never used this word list on this instance, it's gun zipped. It's compressed because it's very big. So I'm going to show you guys how to unzip it in a second. So is that the same case for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to copy that directory. Just double click on it, and then Control-Shift-C, or right click, copy. And then you're going to type gunzip -d, that. And then I think you need to be sudo actually. So sudo gunzip -d, that. And then hit enter your password, and it should take like a second actually, because it's a very, very big word list. And now we're good to go. Now if you go back to /user share word list rocku, it should just be .text this time, and it's not compressed. So it's a very, very big word list that's been around for a while. There's definitely bigger ones out there in the wild with newer passwords and whatnot updated. But rocku has millions and millions of passwords. Likely chance that if you have a bad password and you know you have a bad password, it's likely in there. So we're going to be using that word list. After that, we want to identify the IP address that we want to attack. So for me, it's this. And then finally, the service that we want to attack. And it's, for me, for all of us, it's SSH. Okay? And I'm going to add the -V flag so we can see all the requests being made. And I'm just going to hope that they don't have lockout. This is a very bad practice, by the way, in a real world scenario, because it's very loud. And if they have lockout policy, or if they just don't have root logon, you're just wasting your resources. And also you're getting your IP banned. Or even traced back to your location, because you are doing technically something that you shouldn't be doing on the network. Okay, so we're gonna hit enter. And unknown service. What did I miss?
Incorrect switch order?
This is right. Oh, sorry. -L, not -P, or not -U. -L stands for username. Sorry. I don't know why. I don't know why -L is username, but it is. I forgot that was a thing. So after that, you want to hit enter, and just give it a second.
So it's right now it's like attempting brute force.
Yeah, so it is brute force. So it's logging in as root with that password, the password that you see every time. And I remember, if I remember, the password wasn't that bad, so we'll let it go for a little bit, and it should catch it. Did anyone already get it? Okay. The requests are going through. It paused for me, and it's normal to pause. It does that, so it doesn't. Yeah, kaboom. But as long as it doesn't pause for too long, then we're still good. What we could do to better demonstrate this, which is create our own word list with a Metasploitable account, because we know the password for that, right? MSF admin. So we could do that. But I'm pretty sure root is you can log in as root. 14 million potential passwords from that word list. Yeah. But I remember the password is very basic, and the more basic ones are at the beginning of the word list. So it's doing 136 tries per minute. It is over the internet, so give that a second to go. Shorty. Dang, shorty. Anyone get it yet?
Not yet. I'm still on shorty too.
You getting a socket error? You got locked out? Someone hardened your machine? Just kidding. I'll let it run for another 20 seconds before we exploit it again through VSFTPD and change the root password. So we can do this. But if I remember correctly, I think it's just like root or something. So I don't know why it's taking a while. It's in there?
No. I mean, like I'm gambling on it.
Yeah, no, I know it's in there. I've definitely brute forced root before. You got it, John?
Yeah.
You got it? Okay. So we'll give it a second. John got it. So I'll let you guys see what that looks like. Yeah, John has the fastest internet out of all of us, and the fastest computer, and he's the coolest too. Do I?
So yeah.
You got it?
I know I'm with you, and he's on 320 and he's not there yet.
Oh, you little traitor.
What's your name? John. What password was it at? Index.
I thought you were asking if I ran the command.
Oh.
Like,
I take it back.
play.
John's not cool anymore. John is not cool anymore.
I've taken so long.
What request number are you guys on?
I'm on 256.
Yeah, same here actually.
I'm on
1160.
1160.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna cancel this, and then we're gonna use the Python 3 command from earlier with the file and get in there as root. See, who am I? And then I'm gonna type password, and then I'm gonna change the password to I think I'll do shorty because I saw that in there. And then I'm gonna hit exit to quit the shell, and then I'm gonna rerun the command again. Shorty was at around 150. You'll notice actually real quick is that it creates a hydra.restore file. I'm sorry, I moved up too far. So I just went in there and I did password PASSWD, and then it asks me what password I want to set it as, and I did. But you'll notice it creates a hydra.restore file. So for whatever reason, you feel like your computer's running too slow, you need to restart it, you restart, you come back, you add the $R flag, and it'll continue where it left off. So that's a pretty interesting thing that Hydra does. But also, what it does is, when you run on a different command, it waits for 10 seconds before it overwrites it, so I just remove it so it doesn't do that. So rerunning the command, as long as root logon is enabled, we should be able to log in as shorty, or as root under the password shorty. Hey Nick, were you able to install Kali? Log in? Okay. I got you. While this is going. Hold up. I don't know how to mute this. Oh no, don't use sudo. What were you doing? Don't use sudo. Oh, okay. We can't use sudo because that's annoying. Just go to that one. Some of these don't work. It's so unlucky. But the file is available on the network, so you don't have to redownload anything. Is it in the map? Asus? It won't. It'll blow up. You just got unlucky with like the only machine that doesn't work. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, that's it right there, yeah. Shorty was 136. Hey, Shorty.
I got it. There you go. Shorty. So now that I have a valid credentials, I can SSH using root and the password shorty to the box.
So after you did who am I and installed root,
I did. When I got root, I was able to do the command password PASSWD,
okay.
and from that I changed it. It'll prompt me for a password change, and I just changed it to a password that I knew I was in the list early on. Check it out. That one's on. Yes. Oh, is it just the monitor that's on?
Fallen. Fallen. Bro, I literally just like read it, saw it, like the fourth option.
The thing that we're having.
Because shorty is going to be.
I just looked near the top. That's what I did.
What do you ask? Under the output line number 14,651, the Rocky password. So this I think was
Yeah, that's cool, but I'm on like 32,000.
what's on there.
You know what?
I don't know. I haven't set up yet.
Raise your hand and tell me that's something wrong. We have time. Let it get to 7.
So what is it? SSH password sign key. What?
Like the original 3. You just double check. I'm talking about the word.
Aren't like only two of these not working? The ritual boxes were working before. I don't know. He's like logging in and all of them aren't working. No, they're there. It just won't let him go like to like it's giving the error that Elijah was showing me on only like two of the boxes. Everything else is working, which I'm pretty sure these work. It is what it is. Um, I'll figure it out for you next time. Don't worry. Just follow along. Oh yeah, Mike. Just follow along, and then it's also on Twitch, so you can follow along at home. All right, we're back. Some debugging. Okay, what time is it? Okay, we got time. We got lots of time. This is distracting me from my hunger of fasting. All right, so who knows how to log in? Who has logged in with SSH already? So let's log in with SSH. Who knows how to log in with SSH with these credentials? We have valid credentials to the server. SSH, root. Why root?
We have admin user root.
That's the username. At
The IP address.
the IP address of the server, which is this for me. And then what? That's a trick question. There's nothing else. You press enter. And then it says no matching host. Why is that not working? No matching host key type found. Their offer.
You can only connect using RSA. It doesn't want a password.
No. It worked for you. This is. I'll tell you why this is happening. Did it work for you, Ethan? Did it not work for you, John? Try it. It might just be me. My thought is that I've configured or reconfigured my SSH for whatever reason, and it's not letting me log in.
No, I get the same error.
You get. So let's try to figure out. So this is how I like solving errors. I double click on the error, I Control C, and then I go into Google, and I paste it straight in there, and I see what they have to say. So I click on usually the Stack Overflow, or in this case, Ask Ubuntu, and I see that someone had the same problem as me. But the difference is they don't have SSH, that's RSA. They only have DSS, which is fine. We have DSS as well. So my computer is being unbelievably slow, but we have it right there. So if I scroll down a little bit, you see that this is what you need to, this is the command that you need to do. So I'll post that in there. And you see it's in your SSH config. So I must have changed something. Host name and then algorithm. I must have changed the algorithm. Or maybe it's just the new default Kali, depending on when you downloaded Kali. I'll post this in Discord. Discord. So I'll go into announcements. And that's what you need to add before the root stuff. Turn up the mic a tiny bit. Yes. Hello, hello, hello. Okay.
So we need that, and then we put the IP.
Yeah, so SSH and then root at IP. Yep. Let's try that. Did that work for you guys? I pasted it in the announcements part, and that seems to work. I'm able to connect. And you want to type yes, and then for the password, put in the password that you found, and we get to log in as SSH, as root into SSH. Cool. So we do ID for my see which stuff. If I go into here, what?
It says my authenticity cannot be established.
Yeah, so you type yes.
Okay.
When it asks you, type yes. Do you see that? Are you sure you want to continue?
Okay, yeah, I didn't see that part.
So you want to type yes, and then it'll prompt you for the password, and then you enter that, and you're able to log in. So now we were able to brute force. We've done two different types of attacks. We've done a brute force attack, and we've also done a vulnerability assessment, I guess you can say. We were able to find a vulnerability in VSFTPD and exploit it, okay? So now I'm going to give you guys a kind of overview of, oh man, there's a lot of requests. An overview of kind of, exploitation, a methodology that I would use if we weren't just logging in straight as root right away. And this involves step-by-step starting with the nmap scan, right? And I'm going to ignore the two things we've exploited, SSH and FTP, okay? What I like doing is I like building my way up from the lowest port to the highest port based on how much or how long it takes for me to exploit the thing or try to enumerate the thing. The key word is enumerate, which means look and assess as much as you can. So with the FTP, it's pretty quick. I can FTP in with anonymous credentials. If I don't log in with anonymous credentials, I'm done. I can leave because I don't have credentials. I don't want to brute force right now. But if I do have anonymous credentials, I try to get whatever is on there. I try to download the files that are on there. If I can, I look at those files. Then I test if I can upload stuff on there by putting stuff on there. These things I do just to see if I can use those somewhere else later, okay? And obviously with the usual version enumeration on Google, VSFTBD 2.3.4, is that vulnerable? I look if that's vulnerable, okay? Same thing with SSH, but with SSH, it's not as easy because I have to have credentials, so I kind of just avoid it until I have credentials. Then we have Telnet. Who knows what Telnet is?
Not secure SSH.
Pretty much. But it can be used for other things. It's pretty much just means it's an application that is running. You can configure Telnet to do whatever you want. But it's really just like a netcat connection. It's very insecure. And we should connect to it. So let's connect to it. We use the tool called Telnet because it is a Telnet connection. And in fact, Telnet in itself is just a socketing thing, like netcat. So I don't necessarily need to connect to the port. So let me show you an example. I don't need to connect exactly to port, 23. I could specify that I want to connect to 22. And you can see I can banner grab with Telnet. So I don't necessarily need to specify, or I don't necessarily need to use Telnet for its intended purpose, which is port 23. I can do others. And then you might be stuck here because you're control seeing and it's not working. Well, if you read, it says escape character is control right bracket. So you want to do control right bracket and then type exit. Or quit rather. So control right bracket and then quit. So now let's try to use it on the intended port, which is 23, okay? I'll slow down a little bit. I know I'm going really fast. I'm going really fast right now. Yeah, it'll connect you straight in, and then it prompts you for logins. So, and it tells us the login. So let's try logging in with MSF admin and MSF admin. And now it seems as though we have a SSH session. What I assume is happening is it is doing it is pretty much forwarding the SSH authentication through the Telnet app that they're using. I don't know because this looks like an SSH session. And if I can control C, which I can, it is very promising. If I do ls-la, it's a very good shell. Too good. Kind of like SSH. But we're not root. So now we get to do something else, which is privilege escalation. There's many steps to do privilege escalations. There are many things that can do. But what is privilege escalation? There's two types.
Lateral and vertical.
Lateral and vertical. What is lateral?
You're going from like another user on the same level to another user on the same level.
Sure. So we are a user that most likely doesn't have privileges, like MSF admin, but MSF admin has a lot of privileges. You'll see in a second. But we have a user that doesn't have. Are you stuck, EJ?
I'm just trying to get in.
I'll scroll up here. These are the commands I used. So we are a user, MSF admin. Let's assume we don't have maximum privilege, which the user does, hint, hint. But let's assume we don't. We want to switch over to a user that is on the same level but might have sudo, okay? Why sudo? Because sudo runs as root. And that could lead to vertical privilege escalation, which means we're going up in privileges. So we're starting off as a user without sudo. We're going up with a user with possibly sudo to root. Make sense? So you got it, EJ? Okay. So at this point, I'm going to type sudo -l. The reason we can do that is because we do have the credential. which is MSF admin. And you'll see that it tells us we have all, and that means we can run whatever command we want as sudo. Okay, and this is obviously dangerous if you have a server up. If you're a server, it is dangerous to allow it because actually I'm being dumb right now. You should do it this way, but what you shouldn't do is have your credentials pop up as soon as you connect to a service and have anybody log in with those credentials. You do want it to prompt you as sudo whenever you log in, and you do want to make sure that it asks you for the password. You don't want to have it as no password and then all. What that means is that if someone was able to get a shell on the computer, let's say through a web service, and for whatever reason you're running that web service as MSF admin, they don't need to have the password, which they don't get the password, to run all commands. So in our case, we have sudo with all. What I can do is type sudo, and in this case, as soon as you hear the word sudo, it's vertical privilege escalation to root, and I can just do sudo su, which means I'm using the sudo command to change user to root. So it's not going to say no to me because I am root when I type sudo, and it's going to let me do that. So let's go back a step though. I'm going to exit out of here. So it's sudo su. I think sudo su is enough to do that because su alone defaults to root. So what's also interesting is if we go back a directory and we type ls-la, we see a couple other users: FTP, MSF admin, service, and user. Well, let's laterally and backwardsly privilege whatever de-escalate, I guess, and su to the user, okay? And let's act like we're this user now. So if I type ls-la and who am I and ID and all that, we are the user. If I type sudo-l, it'll prompt me for a password that I don't have. So this is a way more realistic privilege escalation path, okay? So we don't have a password to user. We could brute force it, and we could brute force it locally, which is better. And the way we do that is through su brute force. I can keep doing su user from, like if I do su user, it'll prompt me for a password, and I can keep doing that until I get it. That's one way to do it. But let's treat this like we don't have the password, okay? We do see one thing in the home directory of the user, and I'm the home directory of the user right now, /home/user. Everyone was able to de-escalate, right, to the user? Oh, okay. Sudo, okay, let's make sure. I'm going way too fast. I'm hungry. Sudo su root to go to root, and then you can do sudo su user to go back to user. So sudo su, because if you've ever used the command su, which means switch user, as root, it doesn't prompt you for a password. You can switch to whatever user you want, okay? You can do su user if you're already root. As root, you can switch to whatever user you want without a password because root owns all the users. So in this case, we're the user, and if I try to switch to root, it's going to prompt me for a password, which we know is shorty, but I'm going to act like I don't know. And if I typed, I don't know why I keep clearing my screen. If I type the command, here's what I did. Sorry. Everyone following? I'm going way too fast. If I type su to MSF admin, I also need the password. But if we were to type this in the context of root, so I'm just going to do, I'm going to exit back into MSF admin and do sudo su as root. And if I do su user, for example, you'll see it doesn't prompt me for a password because root owns all the processes, okay? So as root, or as user now, I'm going to go into my user home directory, which is in /home/user, okay? When another way to do that is just by typing cd enter. And when I type ls-la. And the first thing that stands out to me, or there's two things that stand out to me. One is bash history. And this means that whatever user was here was running commands, and there's a history of that command. And in fact, if you look at your home machine, cat.bash_history, you likely have commands in there, and that's not good. It's not good if you're running a server. If you're not running a server and you're running a virtual machine on your computer, and it has nothing, like not even SSH enabled, you're good to go. It doesn't really matter. The good or the best practice for bash history is to redirect it to dev null. And who knows what dev null is? What? Yeah, it erases whatever's in it because it's redirecting all the output of bash history. Anything you put in bash history will go to dev null, which means null, which means nothing. So it'll always be empty. But because I want a Kali Linux box with literally 0 servers running, I don't care. But in their case, they're running a server with a bunch of services. So this is dangerous. So let's cat.bash_history and see what's in there. Likely a bunch of the commands I just ran, but its size is pretty big, so I'm assuming other stuff as well. So I see a bunch of stuff that I definitely did not do. So first they do ssh-keygen-t DSA. So they create an SSH key pair, and they're using the DSA, what's it called? Algorithm, there you go. Then they're gonna go into cd.ssh, and they're doing sudo-s. And then once they did sudo-s, I'm assuming they have sudo credentials, but we don't know. We don't have the password, so we don't know what they did when they became sudo. Okay, they could have done whatever they did, right? And then they went to home user, and they misspelled ls.ssh a couple of times, and then they had to clear to reset their mind, and then properly spell ls.ssh finally, because. Whatever this is not me, by the way. I did not touch this, man, I promise. And then they went and they catted their SSH ID public key and put it in the MSF admin's authorized keys. Okay, and let's discuss a little bit about what that means. Your public key, or at least the way SSH works, is that your public key, okay, is what's used to authenticate, or sorry. Your private key is what's used to authenticate, but your private key is what is used to prove, or is what is used to encrypt, okay? And everyone has your public key, that's normal. Your private key is what's used to decrypt the encryption and let you log in, okay? And in this case, you can add a public key to authorized keys. And what this means is that I don't need my password anymore. I can use the private key exclusively to log in as this user. And this person copied their ID_RSA public key that we have in our directory right now and put it in MSF admin's authorized keys. So in theory, if we have our private key, we should be able to log in as MSF admin with no credentials. Does that make sense? And the rest of all of this down here is just me when we were messing around. So let's try that theory out. Let's go into cd.ssh and spell it correctly, unlike that guy. And we see there's 2 files in there. One of them is the public key, and we know that because it's RSA DSA.pub. And the other one is the private key. Okay? So let's try to log in to the user. The way we're going to do that is we could, what do you call it? Multi-level it or whatever. Or my English is gone. I'm so hungry. I'm fasting. No, not exfiltrate. You know the word. The thing you're not supposed to do on over the wire. SSH within the SSH session. Like onions, level it up. I don't know what you call it. Like, you know how you're not supposed to SSH to bandit 1 from bandit 0 on over the wire, from over the wire? What? There's a word for it. There is a word for it. I'm going to die. What? No. It's like pile it on top of each other, whatever. You get the idea. We shouldn't pile SSH sessions on top of each other. I'm forgetting the word. It's really bothering me. But what we're going to do is we're going to cat the private key, okay? And we see it's right there. We're going to copy it. Do Control-Shift-C. So I catted it and I copied it, okay? Those aren't verbs, but or the first one is not a verb, catted it. But we're going to do that. And we're gonna copy it, and then we're gonna move it over to our system. So, everyone follow me? Good. So I'm gonna go over to my system, which is over here, and I'm gonna create a file. I'll use Nano for you guys. Nano, I'm gonna call it MSF admin _ or I'm gonna call it user private key, user underscore private underscore key. Okay. And the only reason I'm doing that is so I'm not lost later on in my pen test, and I know what my files are representing. Okay. So user underscore private underscore key, and then I'm gonna paste the contents that I copied in here. Okay. And when we save it, I'm gonna do Control O to save, Control X to exit. And at this point, I should be able to SSH, but there's one problem. Do we want to encounter the problem first, or do we want to fix it and then try it? Let's do it. Let's do it. So to log in with a key, you want to add the -I flag, okay? And our key is called user underscore private underscore key. And then the user we want to log into that we're hoping has the public key, or the public key in their authorized keys is MSF admin at 192.168.133.128, and I might face the same problem with the DSA thing. But hitting enter here, yep. So what was the SSH command? SSH. I'll just do this. Okay, we're out of there. I'm gonna exit out of here then. You guys don't have to do this, just me. So you might have to do this for the people that are having the problem. So admin -I user. If you have to do this, then you have to do this. Just do the -O host key algorithm equals plus SSH minus DSS. Okay. That's just to set the key algorithm so that it works for some people. And then you hit enter, and then you'll see something very obvious come up. It says unprotected private key file. And that's because if you look at the permissions of the file, I'm going to Control C out of here. If you look at the permission of the file, it is read, write, read, read. Okay? And if you've ever looked at SSH private keys, you should only be able to read and write from the user that created them. Okay? And that means, and in this case, for the just quick review, read, write, and it usually goes read, write, execute, read, write, execute, read, write, execute. The first 3 are for the user, which is Kali. The second 3 are for the group, which is Kali. And then the last 3 is for everybody else. So anybody can read my private key, which is bad. So, and SSH recognizes that, so we need to fix that. So what I'm going to do is type chmod and do 600 on the private key. And why 600? User private key file. Who knows? Yeah.
Because of the number, like each type of permission is a different number. I
Sure.
think it's 4, 2, and 1.
4 is what?
4 is read.
4 is read.
2 is write.
2 is
1
write.
execute.
Yep.
And the number that you put in is like the place in like, so 6 is the owner of
The user. Yep.
and then the second digit
0.
is the group, and then the third digit is everyone else, and
Yep.
the numbers add up sequentially. So it's always, and because of the reason the numbers are they are. If you every number is like a unique permission.
Yeah. Yeah. So to show that in a visual manner, I ran the command chmod 600, and in this sense, we're technically doing read, which is 4, plus 2, which is write, and that's 6. So that should stay the same, and then 0 on everything else. So the 4 that's on everything else should be gone, and if I do that, you see all the other permissions are gone. We could have done this a different way. I think we could have done chmod g or g minus s or something like that. G minus s, or not s, sorry, r wx, and then w minus rwx, which would have done group, and then would have subtracted read, write, execute, and then subtracted world, read, write, execute. I could be wrong with the syntax, but it's something along those lines. I know you can do u plus whatever for user, so and g plus, I could be wrong about the world one. But that's the general idea. And real quick with the math, so 4 for read, 2 for write, 1 for execute, okay? So in our case, we had 4 plus 2, which is 6, and we wanted nothing in the other one, so that's where the other 2 zeros come from. Does that make sense for everybody, the permission stuff? Okay? And you can see, if you create a directory real quick, you can see that with a directory, you have a little extra bit at the end. Now identifies that it's a directory with a D. And then if it's a SUID file, so let's remove this. Okay, -r. And if I do chmod plus s or u plus s on this file, you'll see, first of all, it's red. Second of all, you'll see there's a huge S in the user section for the read write execute part, which means that if you run this file, you'll be running it in the context of the user owner no matter what. So if I was root running 49757.py, it will run as the user Kali. Does that make sense? It'll always run as that user. So I'm going to do -s, u -s to remove that bit. And so this is just playing around with user permissions. But for SSHing right now, we just need it as 600. Running this command will no mutual signature supported. We need it in DSA. Let's see how to switch it to DSA. DSA is very old. It only supports, or I think I can do both. Let's try that. So he's saying you do DSA, which it won't work. The server only accepts RSA or DSS. I think we can even do this. Yes, warning host identification has changed. Oh, yes, we have to remove this real quick. I'm gonna do that. Ignore me for a second. So what's happening is, first I logged into the server under DSS algorithm, and then it saved that server because we asked it to save. And now I'm logging in with RSA algorithm. So now it's like, yo, what is this? So let's try that. So that works, but it still prompts me for a password, which is annoying. So how do we use a DSA? Let's click on this. So like again, I just copied the error and I pasted it. We can look at how we want to log in as DSA. Public key accepted types. We're going to do SSH-DSA. So I'll probably want to come back to my command. If this works, I'll forward it to you guys. And then we want to do DSA. Like this. This should work. Bad line, SSH-DSA. Dang. If all this fails, we'll layer it and we'll log in from DSA authentication SSH. Let's see how we can enable it real quick. And you'll see that even though I have the credentials that I have, it's very normal to get stuck with things, and it's very normal to just, it's okay to look at write-ups and see how people are doing it. So let's quickly go through this. So we have that, and they did all the steps that we did so far, the other user did. They added to authorize underscore keys, but it doesn't really say how we're going to do it with DSA, the command to SSH in, which is kind of annoying. So what I'm going to try to do is telnet again as the user with msfadmin, and sudo su to user. Okay. So I'm going to try to do what we did, but through the inside of the machine. So I'll do localhost here actually, like that. So I'm still doing the same command, just onto myself through that server. And it's saying, do you want to do that? Okay, that works. So they configured it. Let's actually look at that. That's annoying. cat/etc shd shd or sshg config. So I'm sorry, I'll show you guys the commands in a second. Let's look at DSA. I don't have that enabled, so where does it say it? Ah, there you go. Host key is allowing DSA here. And where else is it allowing DSA? They have to enable it, but it is old, so I don't know if they had to enable it back then. It is a outdated way to do it. I'm gonna do the same cat command and grep for DSA. Yeah, I'm assuming I'm assuming it's a default back then, which we don't really use anymore. Okay, so real quick, I'll go up here, show you guys what I did. So I just logged in back as a user account, and I did SSH dash I, and I did .ssh/id underscore RSA, because that's where the private key is. And then I used the MSF admin user. And then I did 127.0.0.1 because I'm relogging in on the server that I'm already on. So I don't have to log into a remote server. Yeah.
Why doesn't it check the timestamp of the private key, like when it was made? Like,
What do you mean?
Like,
It can't. Because when you're sending it, you're sending the contents. You're not sending the file. Does that make sense? You're talking about how like I downloaded it and I was using it, right? Yeah. So I created a file, but the key's existence. You don't know when the key was created, or they know when the key was created. They have the key. They don't have the file. So the file doesn't matter. The contents is what matter. Okay. And to better show this, if we can do sh-keygen and just use sh-keygen with an RSA key pair and actually be able to use the server like it's meant to be used, and this overwrites the other one. When then we want to copy id underscore or cd into SSH, and I copy idc underscore rsa.pub into I'll do this authorized underscore keys, and who knows what am I missing, or not copy, sorry, cat. Who knows why I did two greater thans? No, we already have the file. Yeah, it's appending because we know the file exists because of the other command that the user was using. We know the command exists. We don't want to delete where the contents already existed, because imagine if you're doing a pen test, okay, and nobody knows that you're on the box, and you want to establish a backdoor by putting your own public key on the box, and you overwrite everything because one pipe is, or one greater than sign overwrites everything, right? Two appends. If I put only one, right, it'll work for me, but after about 5 minutes, someone can't SSH in anymore, and they're gonna be like, why is this not working? And suddenly they see that there's a new, or their public key is not there, and there's a new public key in there, and now they know there's a breach happening. Does that make sense? And you don't want that. It's much more unlikely that they're gonna check an authorized underscore keys that has their key in there, which is the user at Metasploitable. You see that? And our new key that we just created, which is MSF admin. Does that make sense?
So by putting it in there, it's like we're almost like trying to go under the radar.
Pretty much. And now we can SSH in as that user. And we have a good shell. We're establishing persistence. Okay. So again, we see the ID underscore RSA here. And now that it's RSA, we can actually read it and SSH in. We can go through the entire process. But I think you guys get the idea of maneuvering and privilege escalation. At this point, you can type sudo-l and type in the password of MSF admin, and you'll see that your all credentials are there. So we can do sudo su and privilege escalate to root. So that's generally a couple of methodologies to privilege escalate and root. But the idea that I'm trying to get at is it's very normal to have trouble while you're going through whatever you're doing. Your best friend is Google. Copy paste your errors straight into Google. I promise you, someone has had that problem before you. And we saw that with the SSH logging in. I had to do the -o host file key, whatever, SSH-DSS or RSA. But as far as methodology, start with an Nmap scan. Start with things that you don't really necessarily need to brute force, things that let you log in for free. We'll go through more specifically different types of pen tests. So this was a fairly easy pen test. You pretty much got root access instantly as soon as you logged in. We'll start hint, or surprise. We're gonna have a hack the box. Hopefully, I don't want to get your hopes up, but we're gonna have a hack the box, a partnership. Not really a partnership. We're gonna pay for it, but hopefully membership, I guess you can say, that allows us a lot of access of our own private machines that we could practice for hardening, we can practice to pen test, etc. So it'll be really good if things work out, so we want you guys to pray or hope for good things for us, and then you guys will have access to that as a club.
The academy thing or the full thing?
Both. So yeah, so you'll get academy, I think unlimited, from what I understood, unlimited academy access. It does cost quite a bit, but it's a lot cheaper for students, is what I understood. And then we get unlimited VIP access, so you can have your virtual machines or like the vulnerable machines, so you can pen test. Yeah, so hopefully if things go the way we want them to go, and it's not as expensive, and it's as cheap as the guy that was talking to me was prompting it to be, that's something to expect. I do want to, I am speaking into existence, but also I don't want to speak too much because competition stuff. So we were going to do CyberQuest, and you're still welcome to do that, except we're not going to do it as a team. Why? As much as I wanted everyone to do it, the skill gap is pretty high. They want you to do a quiz, which is a CTF, a forensic CTF, in order to qualify to even compete in the competition. So you can go ahead and download it and sign up and try to do it. But I think it's kind of dumb, especially if they're opening it up for everybody. Just let everybody play. Why are you, gatekeeping a competition? But if you are, it is a good competition. Don't get me wrong. It is a very good competition. I'm on stream right now. It is a good competition. If you want to do it, definitely do it. But as a club, I'm not going to push it. The other one we had to do that I wanted to do really badly turns out to be paid now. So we're not going to be doing that one either. So things went to shit over the past couple of days. But I'll figure out a couple of, we are reaching the end, but we'll have, besides CTF, hopefully. They said they don't know the information about that yet, but we are going to compete. Shirts are coming up soon as well. We asked everybody to submit their shirt size on Discord. If you haven't done that, and if everybody on Twitch, definitely go do that, or else you won't get your shirt size. Even though we're going to get more of everything, just in case. Like, if we got 6 mediums, I'm going to get 12 mediums. I'm going to double it, just in case someone comes like, I didn't get my medium shirt, but I put in the thing. I'm going to give you your medium shirt, man. Just take it easy. Yeah. Anything else, Christopher? Yeah. So, oh yeah, Topgolf this weekend on Saturday. We're gonna hang out, eat if you eat. It's Ramadan for some people, so we're not eating. Play Topgolf. It's pretty empty. It's about $11 if you've never been there. It is you are gonna pay out of pocket. We're not paying for you, unfortunately. We do want. I feel like we're reaching the end of the year and we have all this money, but I don't think we can't use SG fund for this, which I hoped we could have, because we have so much money there that we're not using and we can't use right now. Because we reached the end of the year and we didn't have the events we didn't have any events because they were planned last year. Yeah, it's too late now. It's happening in a couple of days. Yeah, we need 2 weeks prior, but hopefully coming next year, we'll be using our funds a lot more efficiently. Like we're just now like scrapping up. We're like, we have so much money, we're not using it. Let's try to throw things at you guys. So the shirts are all paid for, so you guys obviously don't have to pay for them. I wanna DEF CON for everybody. I don't know about everybody, but a certain group of people will go. Now we discussed about how since he brought it up, we discussed about how that's gonna be evaluated for who gets to go. And I really think it's not about who's the smartest or who's the best. It's about who's the most active, people the most willing to learn. And I get it, sometimes you can't make it to the meetings. I'm not basing it by who scans the QR code or anything. I can tell the people that are trying their best to come to the meetings and learn, you know what I mean? And the board is a given that they're gonna go because, we've worked all year long to have this club be a thing. So, but we'll have 3 to 4 other people, hopefully, come with us. And it'll be a good group of 10 or 9 to 10 people that will go to DEF CON. And I'm just talking right now. None of this is confirmed, so I don't want to bring your hopes up. But no, you will. I will have people other than the board go with us for sure. But how many, I don't know. Who, I have an idea, but not all the way. So prove me wrong. And yeah. So, any other questions? I always forget your name. Yeah. No, you've definitely told me your name before. I've asked you. All right, what's your name?
My name's Austin, like the other Austin.
Hello, Austin. Now we know Austin. So we got to us. I'm so confident. I asked everybody. Look, I just asked Nick's name. Dude, no way.
We've never spoken.
Why I'll talk to you after. Okay, yeah. Because I noticed that, you know.
So I didn't have enough space to download the
Okay.
VMware one, and you said that there was problems with the VirtualBox one.
We can fix the VirtualBox one.
Okay.
Okay.
But you've been saying that to get the VMware one, but I didn't have enough space, so I was like, I'm just gonna go home and wipe it, and for the meantime, I was just
Okay.
paying as much as
Was it good? It's also all on Twitch and on YouTube, so you can follow along. Yeah, I definitely don't want this to be how it was in the previous online years, where I would go online, or Julie or whoever was online, and just talk to the wall for 2 hours and then call the meeting. So I do want you guys as engaged and as possible. And you technically rooted your first box, and that's something to be proud about. So Nick right now wasn't able to follow along, so I'm gonna help him out next time, and he'll follow along. Yeah, so if you guys want to hang out and talk, we're pretty much done. I'll call it here.